Hello, and welcome to the third and final installment of my Solo Oryx Guide series. In this video, we'll be covering Solo Oryx variants, that is, any major variant which is not 290 on a Warlock. And full disclaimer, this video assumes that you have previous knowledge of how to solo Oryx on 290 on a Warlock, and I won't be going over the basic strategies, I'll just be covering the differences between these variants and the traditional 290 Oryx solo. Most of this footage is my own, some stretching into last year where I didn't even have a capture card, so if the quality isn't up to snuff in certain sections, my apologies for that. Some of the footage, though, comes from my friend Echo, specifically both hard mode and hard mode on Titan. The reason I took his hard mode footage is because he uses a sniper that I'll cover later, and the hard mode on Titan solo I haven't actually completed, so I needed to borrow his footage just to explain how it works. That said, if you're looking for any particular variant, you can check the timestamps on screen or in the description below to skip to whatever you're looking for. So that said, let's get started. So the primary difference between normal mode and hard mode Oryx as far as your loadout goes is the sniper that you use. In normal mode, you'll typically use a 1000-yard stare, LDR, longbow, or maybe an Ex Machina if you don't have the aforementioned snipers. On hard mode, however, you are going to use Ex Machina, because if you look at the Ogre's health, 3 headshots gets them so absurdly low. Take a look right here for an example of that. That Ogre now has essentially no health, so Ex Machina is the sniper of choice because it's perfect for beginning the Ogres. Now, you might notice that this Ex Machina is not actually fully upgraded. You can tell by the scope and the lack of Siva on the outside of it, and there is a reason for this. A fully upgraded Ex Machina has a perk called Wait For It, which will give you 4 shots in a magazine if your magazine is empty while you reload. The issue with this is that means that since you are only shooting 3 shots off per Ogre and then reloading regardless of whether your magazine is empty, you'll get spray and play half of the time, but not all of the time. And that introduces a lot of inconsistency that can be really annoying. So the reason that we leave this Ex Machina unupgraded is to always proc spray and play after shooting the Ogres. Another major difference between normal mode and hard mode is the amount of damage that it takes to kill things or damage things, and also the damage that you receive. Look at Echo's health bar here. That is significantly lower than it would be for a stun on 290. And jumping up, he takes more damage from Oryx, more damage from the Ogres, and this whole section becomes more dangerous. However, you can see he is an intelligent man and has a life leech Quillum's Terminus, so that saves him there. Most people assume that the main difference between normal mode and hard mode is the Light Eater Knights, because they think that their bombs will get eaten by the Knights. However, as you may have just noticed, Echo didn't even see any Knights there. If you are moving fast enough, if you're sure of what you're doing and enrage the Ogres comfortably, you will pretty much never have to deal with the Light Eater Knights. That said, looking at the footage, you see there's a Knight right there. That Knight survived the bomb detonations by standing inside of the vessel's aura. The aura makes you invincible when you have it, but when the vessel has it, it makes the vessel and its teammates invincible. So, in the situation that a Knight or 2 survives, just keep track of them and kill them before you detonate the next set of bombs. Other than that though, as far as strategy goes, hard mode is exactly the same as normal mode. So, moving on. Soloing Oryx on a Titan, unlike hard mode, actually has some structural changes to your strategy. However, first covering loadout, we're going to go with the traditional Touch of Malice and Ex Machina. The reason we use Ex Machina, if you'll look right here, is on this Ogre that we're about to shoot, we go for 2 headshots and 1 body shot, and then we tap it in the head with a final round of Touch of Malice. That gets this Ogre absurdly weak. Essentially anything will be able to kill the Ogre when it's this weak. We also use a sword instead of Corrective Measure or Quillum's Terminus. The reason for this is that while a Warlock can detonate the bombs, die, and self-res, a Titan has to detonate the bombs and then block them in Armor of Light. So we run a sword for that. At any rate, you can see here we're staggering Oryx. And then you'll have to wait a moment for some health to regenerate, because you're going to have to run right in the middle of the fray. And here we are, you run forward, jump over the vessel, and you pop your bubble right there on the lip of the daughter's plate. Then you'll kill the 2 ogres that you're killing initially, enrage the other 2 ogres, and pull them back. Having done that, you'll want to make sure that you step into all of the bombs at essentially the exact same time. This is because when you're shooting Oryx in his chest, you have a limited amount of time to do so before you have to start sword blocking, and if the bombs are spread apart, it's a lot more likely that one of them won't do damage at all. That said, the timing for sword blocking the bombs is actually very precise. Look at chat right now. When the message for the very first bomb that you detonated begins to disappear, that's when you need to go into your bubble and sword block the bombs. Make sure you are facing the bombs while you block with your sword. If you are facing away from the bombs, they will just kill you, regardless of whether you're in an armor bubble or not. Other than that, though, the Titan solo is essentially the same as the Warlock solo. So, moving on again. Hard mode on Titan is exactly what it sounds like. It is a combination of hard mode on Warlock and normal mode on Titan. You see that we're still using the unupgraded Ex Machina. It is by far the best sniper to use for any hard mode Oryx solo. However, in just a moment we are also going to make a couple of other loadout changes. After you drop down, having damaged the 4th ogre, you're actually going to switch to a shotgun and no backup plans. In any 5-round Oryx solo, you need at least 1 round where you get all 4 bombs off. On a Titan on hard mode, however, you barely have enough health to survive 4 bombs going off. So by switching to the shotgun and no backup plans, we will force ourselves to have force barrier, and this will be very beneficial. You'll see here in just a moment. Having staggered Oryx, you wait a moment for health regeneration, and then pop your bubble on the ledge. And then you're going to kill 2 ogres, and turn around and enrage the front ones, just like the regular Titan solo. This is where things become a little different though. You're going to kill the first ogre with whatever, but the second ogre you shotgun, you see now we have force barrier, and because of some subclass perk, our force barrier is now regenerating. Thus, when we shoot Touch of Malice, we're not actually doing any damage to our health, we're doing damage to the force barrier. And as you can see, we survive with essentially no damage taken from the bombs. Other than that small variation though, this is fairly similar to a regular Titan solo. You only need 3 bombs per round, except for this 1 round where you have to proc force barrier. So, moving on. Hunter is very different from most other Oryx solos. Look at my subclass here, you'll want to copy it exactly. As far as your weapons go, though, Touch of Malice is necessary. You'll want a sniper of any impact. I actually use a low impact sniper with surplus, that way I get more ammo per drop. However, you would be fine running a 1000-yard stare or even an Ex Machina. You'll want to run a sword, otherwise you will have literally no way of surviving bombs. And as far as exotic armor goes, you have to run Celestial Nighthawk for this strategy that I'm going to show you. The original Hunter solos did not use Nighthawk, however they were also long and boring and slow and a lot more difficult. The modern Hunter solo is a little more complicated, but also a lot easier and faster. So let's take a look at a round of the Hunter solo. Oryx is going to go either left or right, and initially I think I'm going to grab some ammo, but I realize I don't have the time. So I place a trip mine on that ogre's spawn, and then I'm going to kill it with my sniper once it spawns. Having done that, I want to get all of the other ogres to half health or below, and you will see why in just a moment. Importantly though, you don't have to use any sniper ammo here, and you shouldn't. This is a long drawn out fight, and anywhere that you can save ammo is wonderful. Now, you'll notice here that I actually have 0 sword ammo, so after I weaken the ogre, I'm going to make sure that I have some sword ammo. And then we do a neat little trick. Watch as Oryx slams his fist. I'm going to step into the bomb exactly as his fist hits the plate. I sword block as I hit the ground to make sure I don't die of fall damage. And then I pop Nighthawk and wait a moment. You don't want to stagger him immediately, because if a bomb goes off while Oryx is in his stagger animation, he will take the damage, but he won't go to the next phase of Mortars or Shade. This means that while the first bomb kills the back ogres, I can just walk to the back and detonate one of the bombs that was just dropped by one of the back ogres. And then I can shoot Oryx in the chest and sword block the bomb. Now, I cannot stress to you how cool that is, because it turns the Hunter solo from a 50-minute solo into as low as a 25-minute solo. However, this strategy only allows you 6 rounds pre-enrage. That will get Oryx down to 4 bombs of health left, if you get every bomb off every round. That means we will have to do at least 4 rounds of enrage. So let's skip to enrage. After you've killed the last shade of pre-enrage Oryx, you're going to have to switch your special weapon from a sniper to a shotgun. I use Found Verdict, which is not technically the best. A high-impact final round shotgun is a little bit better. However, for the strategy that I'm using, it's not particularly relevant. So during enrage, Oryx opens his chest immediately after he slams his fist the first time, and you have to get damage off within about 20 seconds, and then he will close his chest and go back to Shade. So what you do is throw a Chirp Mine, and then shotgun this ogre, and then here I'm trying to shoot him with touch, but I quickly realize I have to pop my Nighthawk and stagger him with the Nighthawk. Then I get some damage on his chest, and block the bomb as it's about to go off, and I barely survive with any health at all. However, that's how rounds of this are going to go. If you have a lot of ammo on the ground, you could switch back to a sniper for Shade. However, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep the shotgun, because you can just solo Shade with just Touch of Malice. So that'll look a bit like this. When you spawn in, you turn, and you shoot Shade with Touch. Then as it teleports, you reload Touch and keep shooting the Shade. The trick here is to shoot a full Touch of Malice until the final round, and then keep shooting the final round until the Shade teleports. Once it teleports, you reload Touch, and then continue shooting with the full Touch of Malice. You will inevitably lose a lot of health, but that's fine. All you have to do is kill 3 Thralls with Touch of Malice, and you'll get all of your health back. Here I do that just in time because the Shade is coming to slam, so I jump over it and sword block just to be safe. Then you'll kill 3 more Thrall to get your health back, and by then the Shade should have teleported back into the map. So, with a fully reloaded Touch of Malice, shoot the Shade. And then it teleports and you reload, and then you shoot it some more. And repeating this is actually a very effective and fairly safe way to kill the Shade if you are good at it. However, again, if you have a lot of ammo on the ground, you could just switch to a sniper, and then switch back to Found Verdict after Shade. Leaving Shade during enrage is actually fairly dangerous, because there are going to be Centurions and Acolyte's Eyes and Knights, and also the Vessel up and running around. Oh yeah, by the way, Knights spawn when Oryx is enraged even on 290. Anyway, if you look at my super energy here, I don't have Nighthawk, and I'm not confident that the one ogre I'm going to kill will give it to me, so instead I just stay on top of one of the Daughter's Plates and stagger Oryx with Touch. That does mean that I waste this round, essentially, but now that Oryx is enraged, it kind of doesn't matter. There's no relevant time limit anymore. Anyway, let's take one more look at a detonation/damage phase during enrage. As you can see, I'm running away from everything and taking cover and emptying my Found Verdict to the last 2 shots, and then I wait for Oryx to rotate over. Now I'm looking for Knights, but there don't seem to be any Knights on me, which is great because the Knights obviously can just walk up to you and do damage to you. So Oryx slams his fist, I throw the grenade, and then I shoot 2 shotgun shots, pop Nighthawk, shoot Oryx in the chest, and then I run for cover, and damage Oryx a little bit with Touch to make sure that the bomb registers, and then block the bomb. You'll notice that I'm careful not to jump on top of plate 1. The reason is that the orb that gives Torn Between Dimensions is still there, and you actually stay torn during Shade and throughout the rest of this fight if you pick it up. So, if you pick up Torn Between Dimensions, you wipe. It's as simple as that. You can't shoot, you can't do anything, Oryx will clap you to death, or the Shade will doxology you to death. That said, those are the basics of the Hunter solo. So, moving on once again. Solo Oryx Challenge Mode is both beautifully simple and terribly complicated. It revolves around the fact that there are spots on the map which the Vessel and the Light Eater Knights will not walk to, and even if they are pushed there, they will not generally take a bomb from those spots. And what this means is that if you can manage to drag some ogres over those safe spots and kill them, those bombs are safe for as long as you go through the encounter. So what I'm doing right here is I'm dragging 2 ogres over this safe spot, which is essentially your spawn. The vessel will not walk over there, and the Light Eater Knights will also not walk over there. So those bombs are safe. Then I weaken one of the front ogres, so I can drag it back after I stagger Oryx, and then I stagger Oryx. Having done that, I'm going to enrage the front ogres, and then try and pull them back to the safe spot in the back of the map. However, it doesn't quite go to plan initially. You see that there are a bunch of adds in the way, because I did after all kill those back 2 ogres. So the front ogre loses its enrage because I'm not moving very quickly, and I lose a lot of health, but I'm able to kill the ogre, albeit slightly further away from the first 2 bombs. And this is essentially how the solo goes. Every round, you are going to weaken ogres when you get the chance, you're going to drag ogres to the back when you get the chance, and you are going to stagger Oryx when Oryx has to be staggered. Then you do the same thing, weaken ogres if you can, drag them if you can, and that's the solo. One thing to note is that since you aren't detonating any bombs, all of the thralls and adds that are still alive will stay alive in Shade. This means that you will start Shade off with a lot of thrall already in the arena. So this is fairly dangerous, but as long as you remember that 3 Touch of Malice kills regenerates your health, you can kill the thralls fairly safely. Occasionally though, Acolytes or Centurions or Light Eater Knights or even the Vessel can actually go into the Shade bubble and shoot you from outside of the arena, and that is very dangerous, and there is nothing you can do when that happens. You essentially just have to dodge their fire while shooting the Shade or regenerating your health from thralls. Now, it is very difficult to get all 16 bombs that you need lined up in just 5 rounds, so chances are you are going to enter Enrage. As you can see here, we have Light Eater Knights on the map, that means Enrage has begun. So I'm going to try and kill the back 2. It'll be very difficult for me to drag bombs back there if there are Light Eater Knights alive. Everything else thankfully despawns once Oryx slams his fist, except for the Knights. So, Oryx slams his fist, and I have to stagger him. And then after that, I'm going to weaken the ogre from plate 2, and try and drag that one to the back of the map. I actually managed to get this done fairly cleanly. The ogre's bomb is nicely lined up with the others, and Oryx regains favor of the darkness. So I have to go into yet another Shade. And this is how Enrage goes. You are able to get at most 1 bomb per round, and you have to make sure to stagger Oryx at the beginning of every round, and you have to make sure that you get the bomb lined up before Oryx regains favor, or if not before he regains favor, at least before you are teleported. Now, perhaps the hardest part of a challenge mode solo is actually detonating the bombs. Here I'm popping a special synth because there is actually work that needs to be done this round, even before I stagger Oryx and detonate the bombs. You'll see that I'm looking for Light Eater Knights. I have to make sure to kill those, because I'm going to be losing health with Touch of Malice while I'm detonating the bombs, and the Light Eater Knights will kill you, if they are alive while you're doing so. Then Oryx slams his fist, and I jump into the bombs and turn around to stagger him. Now, you want to make sure that you detonate the bombs as Oryx opens his chest. That does mean it's pretty difficult to see his chest, but if you line your reticle up as you step into the bombs, then you should be able to get them off while staggering Oryx. And then the bombs go off, and the Oryx takes 16 bombs of damage all at once. Then you just self-res and run to the front of the map. Now, this is Enrage, which means there is still stuff alive. The Vessel's alive. There are Knights alive. So, for Enrage kills, I like to do stagger, actually, on this side of the front right plate. This gives me a lot of cover from anything that's still alive, and I still don't get enough damage fall off to make staggering Oryx impossible. And there it is. That's a challenge mode solo. Now, a no exotic solo is fundamentally just a loadout restriction, and specifically the important thing is that you can't use Touch of Malice. Now, you don't realize how perfect Touch of Malice is for solo Oryx until you're not allowed to use it anymore. That said, you can use pretty much whatever you want as your primary weapon. I actually don't recommend a scout rifle with explosive rounds though, because explosive rounds don't register on Oryx's chest, and that means you'll have to get even more shots off for your damage to register. So instead, I actually use the exact opposite thing. I use a high rate of fire auto rifle. This is the new Monarchy one, and the reason for that is I can get as many bullets as possible on Oryx's chest without having any break from damage. The sniper is the same sniper that I always use. It's this 1000-yard that I have, and your heavy weapon is going to be a high rate of fire machine gun. That is the New Monarchy's First Citizen 9, I believe, or Song of Iryut, or If Materia. I imagine most people will be going with If Materia, but a perfectly rolled First Citizen is actually very good for solo Oryx. And the reason we use these guns is to stagger Oryx. Take a look at how close this stagger is, though. He's just about to clap when you finally get the stagger off. It's insane how close that is. But anyway, other than that, the actual strategy is fairly similar. However, it can be a lot harder to line the ogres up where you want. If you do this incorrectly, like make even one small mistake, it's actually really hard to recover because you don't have the guns for it. You know, you don't have your usual machine gun, you don't have Touch of Malice, which is, again, the perfect gun for solo Oryx. So a no exotic solo in reality is about making perfect movements and controlling yourself and the ogres as accurately as possible without making mistakes. And also, to a lesser extent, it's about ammo management. Remember that since you're using your heavy weapon to stagger Oryx, and it takes about 80 shots to stagger Oryx, you need to have like 3 or 4 heavy bricks on the ground throughout the fight in order to just have enough ammo to get all of the staggers off. Now, this is a bit of a hot take, but for Shade, I like to switch to a Zali's Bane with Life Leech. This is the only primary in the game that can roll Life Leech. And the reason for this is that 2 rapid kills, I know it says 3, but 2 rapid kills with a Life Leech weapon heals you completely. It starts health regeneration. And for Shade, as we know, that's incredibly powerful. Typically, Touch of Malice serves that role. But since we don't have Touch, Zali's Bane is actually a fantastic replacement. So you can see I'm going to jump over the Shade, and then find a Thrall to kill, find another Thrall to kill, and now I have health back. Now, remember how close the stagger was with this heavy machine gun? That also applies to Final Stand. And keep in mind that machine guns have pretty absurd damage fall-off, so you want to make sure you are right at the edge of this platform so you get no damage fall-off whatsoever when you stagger Oryx for Final. And again, look at this stagger here. It is just exhilarating to get Oryx right there, right about to clap you, and then you stun him. It's just such a good feeling. But anyway, that's no exotics, so now let's move on to one of my personal favorites. So the important thing about a no shade solo is actually the bombs. You want to make sure that in the first 2 rounds you get exactly 7 bombs. This means you'll have to deal with as few shades as possible, while getting as many bombs off as you can. And then after round 2, on rounds 3 through 5, you want to get as many bombs as you possibly can. But anyway, on to the meat of the no shade solo, which is, of course, the shade. Immediately before a shade phase begins, make sure to switch to Bad Juju, because you've just used your super and you're about to need it again. Now make sure you have a stopwatch out, or a stopwatch app, because you are going to need to know exactly how long you're in the shade, and as soon as you are teleported into the shade, you're going to want to start the clock. So now we have exactly 60 seconds to weaken ourselves and also generate 1 full super. So you see, I'm looking around for Thrall, and there's a couple Thrall, so I killed them, and now I have some super. And then I see another Thrall, so I kill that one. And there's a shade, he's going to slam me, so I jump over him so he doesn't kill me. And then I find some more Thrall. And there's another Thrall, and there's another Thrall. My super's about halfway now, and I'm about halfway through the shades, so I actually need to pick up the pace a little bit. So there's another Thrall, and I kill it. And there's another one. And there's 2 more. And now I have a full super. And as you can see, the time is approaching 1 minute, so I throw it in a grenade to kill myself. Make sure that you die before it hits 1 minute. I cut it very, very close there. But ideally you'll be killing yourself at about 58, 59 seconds. And then, after Oryx starts moving, you can self-res, and now you continue with the fight. One really annoying thing about the no shade Oryx solo is that the ogres can actually walk into the shade bubble, and they just die. Like, they don't even get teleported into shade. Their bombs do get teleported into the shade, but the ogres themselves will literally just die. And you can see that right here in the front of the map, there's only one ogre, because the other one must have killed itself. So, anyways, I have to kill the one ogre and make sure that I get both of these bombs off, because I need 3 bombs, and I only have 3 ogres alive. Once you have detonated all 16 bombs, it is time for Final Stand. You might notice, though, that the usual Final Stand spot is not usable. However, you can actually stand pretty much anywhere in the front of the map for Final. Right here is fairly unsafe, actually, if the vessel is alive, but you can also drop down to the same spot as an enrage kill. That'll give you some cover from the vessel. But yeah, anyway, that's No Shade Oryx. Now, one particularly fun thing that you can do after a No Shade solo is take some pictures. And right here what I'm trying to do is respawn Oryx so that I can take some pictures with him. I do have to put on the taunty mode, of course. And I think I fail this breach a couple times. Oh no, I don't. I hit it first try. And then you just sword swipe to the side there, and you join allies. And if you've never seen this before, this is going to blow your mind. But look at that, there's Oryx right there. So yeah, now that you've done that, you can take some pictures with Oryx and the shade bubble, and it's really cool. And yeah, that's the video. So that concludes my series of solo Oryx guides. If you've seen all 3 of them, thank you very much. And yeah, if you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments.